This is the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show tonight, interviewing rockers on the red carpet for the Ronnie James Dio Stand Up and Shout Cancer Fund's 3rd annual Bowl for Ronnie event. With Alex Kane, former guitarist for the band Life, Sex, and Death. He worked with the Ramones.
About a month ago, I actually worked with Daniel Ray, who was in New York, but that was unrelated to Little Caesar. It was after the Little Caesar tour, but I was making a Ramones-related album with Jiro, who's this Japanese guy who's tied in with Ramones, and it was me and Clem Burke and Daniel Ray, so that was fucking amazing. And incidentally, it's a good thing to state that barring Dee Ramone, all 4 of the real original Ramones, 3 of the real original Ramones died from cancer. And not only that, but today, one of my dearest friends who lives in Italy, I just found out has pancreatic cancer. I found that out today. It's a fucking bummer, dude, because this guy, he's a photographer, and one of my dearest friends, and you know, I've always loved him and everything like that, and he's been complaining about having problems in his stomach for like a year now, and we didn't think anything of it, and just today, so it's like, to be very honest and not to get like too political about anything, so forgive me if I am, but my concern is whether or not the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry is more concerned about making sure how long we can stay alive with cancer rather than getting rid of cancer. And that's, I think we have to consider, because I do feel as though a lot of big pharma and a lot of their motivation is actually about perpetuating the illnesses so that they can continue to make money. The same way with like big agriculture it isn't necessarily in the business of feeding us nutritious food as much as making money. So I think we all need to be very aware and very circumspect about the people that are making the rules for us and whether or not they're motivated by our best interest as citizens of the United States or their own financial best interest. And I'm just putting it out there as an idea because I have my own feeling, which is that in fact we are being used as ATMs for the people that would call that we would pretend to be the decision makers for our lives. So question authority all the time and do what's right for yourself and your family, because I don't necessarily know that they do have our best interests at heart. I'm a part of, the information age, so, I will go out there, and I'm not actually speaking to conspiracy theories because I think that's a good way of disseminating false information. I'm speaking more so toward just doing research and using common sense. And, a lot of things that are going on in our world right now don't necessarily make sense to me. And I guess that's what I'm speaking to. And the other thing I would say while I'm standing in front of your camera, with the opportunity as a musician to speak to the people that listen to the things that musicians say, don't look for reasons to not pull together. Look for reasons to pull together. Look for commonality in each other. Look for what makes me and you the same. And I promise you I'm going to do the same. And I don't care who you voted for, and I don't care who you support now. I'm saying as people, we got to be cool with each other, because the people that should be doing that for us aren't doing that. So it boils down to me and you, and we can take care of each other, and I don't care who you voted for or what church, or if you don't go to church. I know you're a kick-ass fucking person because you give a shit about music, and I promise you I'll do the same. So whether or not, if I'm on one side of the political spectrum, and let's say hypothetically you're on the other side of the political spectrum, let's view all this shit in the middle, not as what divides us, but as our common ground, because that's what we do in this country. That's how we treat each other. So don't get caught up in these bullshit fucking Facebook fights where like, oh, I'm deleting you and you're an idiot. Fuck all that bullshit. None of us are idiots. We act like idiots, but we're not idiots. It's a twofold thing. First of all, we're being trained to think less and be stupid. We are literally being trained. In places like Facebook, social media is effectively reinforcing this divide, and it's also completely marginalizing the conversation, because you're not like my best friend is a cop, right? And in case you haven't figured it out, I'm as left gets, right? And he's pretty right. But the fact of the matter is, we are best friends. He's been in the military. He's a career military dude. He's a fucking cop in Santa Monica. And me and Stu are tight as shit because we're brothers. And politics is a construct of man. And that's all that's separating us. Whereas what brings us together is actually something divine. It's the universe. It's life. Life is what unifies us. And so while Stu and I are on very different ends, and we voted for different people, we have different views on religion and spirituality, maybe not spirituality, the fact of the matter is this whole part in between us is what makes us brothers, right? So people don't want to think, people don't want to hear each other's viewpoints, and that's not why we fucking made this country. We made this country so different people can get along and find everybody's common goal. So essentially, yeah, they're asleep, but they're being bludgeoned into sleeping. So they're actually more so unconscious, because when you're always inundated with this information saying this, and then the other information says that, we don't know what's real anymore. I don't know what's real. I don't know who to fucking trust anymore. And that is not how we do shit here.
What do you think about Christianity and the Bible?
I think Alice Cooper, who's a born-again Christian, walks it like he talks it.
That's what's important for you.
What's important?
If somebody is going to call themselves a Christian, they can't just talk it, they got to walk it.
Yeah! If somebody calls themselves punk rock, if somebody calls themselves rock and roll, the word itself has no meaning. It's the, like rock and roll is 3 words, rock and roll. But it doesn't mean you can wear a Motorhead shirt and not be rock and roll. You can wear a Ramone shirt and not be punk rock. But that's fashion. Religion and spirituality are a whole nother thing. If you call yourself a Christian and you fuck people all day long and you ruin their lives and you steal their money and you marginalize their existence, you're not a fucking Christian. You're an excuse maker. And you should fuck off. And I don't believe in heaven and hell. Alice Cooper does. Alice Cooper walks it like he talks it. He takes care of people that are in more unfortunate situations in their lives than he is. That's a man of honor. But like a Christian that'll fuck somebody and say, oh, it's only business, that's not a Christian, that's an asshole. You know what I mean? So just because you go to church doesn't mean that you're doing good. That just means you're like maybe trying to get a shortcut on an excuse. I just met Angelo from Fishbone up there, right? That guy's never fit in. That guy's always been on his own planet. The thing about doing what me and people like me do is that we've kind of chosen to not be part of the mainstream construct of things. So we can go out there and get information that's like a little bit weird or whatever, and we can drag that back into reality. So like not everybody has to live this fucking existence that we're putting ourselves through. It's not an easy life. You know what I mean? Financially, it's never stable. All of your relationships go into the toilet invariably. So you sacrifice everything at the altar of this thing called rock and roll. Some people should not fucking have that experience. Some people should have stability and fucking 2.5 kids, and that's fine, because otherwise the species would not perpetuate itself if everybody lived like I do, you know what I mean? So I don't wish that on my worst enemy, literally, which would mean I wish worse for myself, because I've chosen this life than my worst enemy. But there are sheeple, but Shakespeare was written for the common man, not the educated, not the rich. It was written for the common man. Not everybody needs to not be a sheeple, but everybody needs to respect each other, and everybody needs to kind of think maybe there's more for us all than what we're allowing. And so that's where I do believe independent thought is critical.
What's going on musically with you right now? Are you working with Steven Adler?
Well, we jammed the other day because I do those jams all the time. I mean, we're always actually jamming, but not like actually in a band per se. I got a gig with Little Caesar opening up for Pat Benatar that we're doing a benefit for wildlife sanctuaries, and I'm a vegan, so I'm really into which another thing about like this whole thing that we're doing right now. One of the most potent. The consumption of meat leads to cancer. It does. All the pollutants that are put in there, all the chemicals and stuff. So that's one thing. If we're going to actually marginalize cancer, one thing we do have to do is we really have to look at our diet. So that's the only reason I say that I'm a vegan, not to be like, one of those guys.
Are you going to put out a new record? Is Little Caesar going to be putting out a new
record? Caesar's working on a record. Shark Island, who I also play with, I'm producing that. I'm producing that record with Jiro, with Clem Burke, and Des Cadena from Black Flag is on there. That's going to be amazing. So you know what it is. I mean, contemporarily, to exist in the music business, if you didn't end up being Slash, what you have to do is you have to diversify to work all, because you need to pay your rent and eat food like 12 months out of the year. So basically, that's what I've done.
God bless you.
Thank you very much,
Have a good one, brother.
Absolutely.
The Blairing Out Show.